So we have a sponsor for today's service. Today's service is sponsored by Mother Nature. And in particular, it's sponsored by the community of trees. And I'd like to quote from Peter Wohlleben, I hope I've said that right, who wrote The Hidden Life of Trees. And he tells us, forest trees have evolved to live in cooperative, interdependent relationships, maintained by communication and a collective intelligence. Wise old mother trees feed their saplings with liquid sugar and warn the neighbors when danger approaches. All the trees here and in every forest that is not too damaged are connected to each other through underground fungal networks. Trees share water and nutrients through the networks and also use them to communicate. They send distress signals about drought and disease, for example, or insect attacks, and other trees alter their behavior when they receive these messages. Trees also communicate through the air. So I'd like you to imagine for a moment that you are in one of your favorite places in nature, and you're perfectly cozy and comfortable, have whatever you need to just feel completely at ease. And just look around at this place you've chosen. And just be still for a moment and breathe in this favorite place. Nature is a sacred temple. It's a place to feel holiness. When we touch a tree, or if we look at a flower, or we're simply still in nature, we can feel our connection to all that's holy, including ourselves. Sometimes we forget to include ourselves in that. Nature opens us, if we allow it, to learning and growing and healing. And I don't know about you, but for me, it's so easy to feel the divine presence in me and around me when I'm in nature. If we let it, nature will remind us that we're never alone, and that each of us is a tiny part of a wondrous universe. When we look at the trees, or the sun, the moon, the water, the sky, we can remember that. So take a moment, again, in your favorite place in nature, and just remember who you are, who you really are. So I want to share some things today that I've learned from the changing of the seasons and from taking part in ceremonies and for equinoxes and solstices and full moons and new moons and all the amazing, amazing things that nature brings to us that allow us to notice and celebrate our inner changes and our outer changes. We'll start by calling in the elements of nature that support and sustain us. And I want to thank Darlene for the wonderful reading and Janet for taking us through a solstice ceremony before we even started this today. That's so wonderful. So we're going to start by calling in the elements, which is how every ceremony I've ever been in has started. So I'd ask that you stand if you're able. And we're going to face each direction in turn. And I'm going to see if I can. There it goes. See, hold up my candle and the microphone. There we go. So we're going to start facing the south, which is this way. Imagine Celine down there. We call to the spirits of the south, the home of water, the place of flowing, of using our emotions to give love, the place of compassion and an open heart. And now we'll turn to the west. We call to the spirits of the West, the home of earth that grounds us, gives us stability, that feeds and nurtures us so we can thrive. And now to the North. We call to the spirits of the North, the home of air, where new ideas and energy flow into our minds, where the winds of change bring new wisdom every day. And the East. We call to the spirits of the East, the home of fire and the returning sun, where we are surrounded by gods and goddesses, guides and angels, including some in human form, who bring us divine guidance, where we are bathed in divine light. Look above for healing energy. Look below for magic. And into the center, where all energies converge and where we know ourselves as the holy beings we truly are. Blessed be. Please be seated. Now bring into your mind someone or something that you love dearly. It could be anything. It can be a person, it could be a pet, it could be a tree, whatever. Bring something into your mind that you really love and feel that love. Feel what that feels like. Just be enveloped by that love. For me, that's the energy of nature. It's the energy of a vast and wise community of seen and unseen guides and teachers that we don't always remember. But that love is always there for us. So just take a minute and just feel whoever or whatever it is and feel what that love feels like inside of you. I believe that every bit of the natural world and every experience I have is a teacher that's been sent by God, Goddess, all that is. Sometimes those teachers are what the native people call a Heyoka teacher, a coyote teacher, where the lesson comes in a form that you would prefer was not the way it came. Backwards, upside down, difficult. But they're all lessons. They're all things to help us grow and find our holiness. So I'd like to share a couple of personal experiences that I've had with receiving teachers from this really vast community that I sometimes forget is there, but then I get reminded. This is one from when I was in my 20s, and my 20s were not an easy time. My dad had died in a car accident when I was 18, and I was kind of off at college on my own, very confused and not really, and depressed. But I had the opportunity to go out to the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I was driving along and I saw, I was so obsessive. I stopped at every turnout that I saw. It's like, had to see the view, had to see the beauty. And so I stopped at one of these and there was a path and it kind of went down. And I didn't know where it went, but I thought, okay, I'll go down there. And so I walked down, and on the way up was this large group of people laughing and talking, and clearly they had enjoyed themselves. So I passed them and went down, and there was a river or creek and trees. I was in the forest, and there was a fairly large rock, not too far from the shore, close enough that I could actually step onto it. And I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. So I stepped onto it. It was actually large enough for me to sit down. So here I am sitting on this rock in the middle of the river in the woods, and nobody else is around. And I am in pain. And I'm asking in my mind, what am I doing? What is this all about? I don't know. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And a voice started to talk. And it wasn't like a voice like somebody that I could hear outside of myself. It was a voice inside my head, but it was very clear. And it wasn't me, or at least, I don't know, maybe it was, but it wasn't anything I would have thought of independently that I know of. And I had a little notebook with me, so I actually wrote down the words, and I don't have the exact words, but I remember this all this years, like 50 years later. And it said, don't worry. Everything you're doing right now and everything, all these things that don't make sense to you are going to all converge and come together and make sense. You just need to keep going. And it was so comforting to me. It was so real. It's hard to describe how real that was. And it helped. It helped. I mean, here I am. I remember it all these years later. And I just sat there for a while. And nobody was around. And then I got up and I walked up the path. And on the way down was a large group of people laughing and talking and clearly enjoying themselves. And I thought, what a blessing. I was given not only the words, but I was given this space, this quiet space. And I've had that happen a couple more times in other places in nature where I felt like I was being given a gift of space and time and a message. So here's a more recent message. And this one, I do something called voice dialogue with a friend, and we've been doing it almost every week for 3 years, where we allow ourselves to kind of usually move your chair or take a step or take a breath and allow some part of myself to come forward that would like to speak. And sometimes I know who it is. Sometimes it's a scared child. Sometimes it's a wise archetype. It can be anything. And then I just allow, it's kind of like automatic writing. You just allow the words to flow out and you see what comes. So, and my friend and I type for each other, so we have a record. And this is a message I got just a few weeks ago. And it said it was coming from a wise voice. And it said, we can go into our darkness. We can go into our sacred places. We can go into our kind and generous places. I mean, we can go into our scared places and our kind and generous places. We can begin to let down the barriers between them. It's not either or. Brick by brick, piece by piece, our scared parts can call for our wise parts, and they can be a team. And our self-hating parts can call for our self-loving parts, and they can be a team. Because all the parts have things to teach, and all the parts have things to learn. Allow this process to continue on in its own way and at its own pace. So I want to share a few more quotes. That is, I guess if I were going to say what the message of this talk is, that's the message of allowing all of us to come in. And this is another way I got that same message, and this was through the magical process of email. So, and from my earthly guide and spiritual teacher, Holly Makema. She said, I am marveling at what happens when instead of fear and worry, we choose a non-attached curiosity to what might happen next. This does not mean we bypass any authentic feeling state, including fear, happiness, anger, or sadness. We just tell the truth about what is up for us, knowing none of this world's phenomena and experiences are the sum total of the vast ground of being holding us in a love as infinite as the cosmos, yet as intimate as a friend calling us at just the right moment with words of hope that we need to hear. Pema Chodron tells us, compassion is not a relationship between the healer and the wounded. It's a relationship between equals. Only when we know our own darkness can we be present with the darkness of others. Compassion becomes real when we recognize our shared humanity. And actress and author Laverne Cox says, self-love is a process. It's not a done deal. So solstice is a time to let everything in. The path of Wicca is a path of opening to that vast cosmos, to the earth, to the sky, to the stars, to the beings that are part of us, that are surrounding us. It's remembering that we're never alone. We actually can't be alone. And we all get hijacked by our pain. We have emotional pain. We all have physical challenges, sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. We all have mental concerns. And a couple weeks, last week or the week before, I was commenting, I think it was last week, and I said something about mental illness, and I got a phone call from somebody in our group who said, thank you for saying that. And so I'm going to just talk a second about that here. I have said for years and years I have anxiety and depression. In the last couple of years, I have learned that I have developmental and chronic trauma. And I can say those. I can easily say those out loud. But when I go to say I have a mental illness, ooh, that's hard. That's hard. And yet, it's a part of me. And it's a part of a lot of people. And if I want to be whole, if I want to truly acknowledge my holiness, I have to be all of who I am. And I want to honor all of who each of us are. Solstice for me is a time that light and darkness combine, converge. I sit in one, I sit in the other, I bring them together. And we all have to live in this world. So, I'm sorry, I have to say a little bit about that too. Who can look at the climate, at our politics, at the ways we treat each other, and not feel rage and grief? I brought this book that I actually am in a book group reading and talking about, and it's called Do Better. And the subtitle is Spiritual Activism for Fighting and Healing from White Supremacy. And oh my gosh, talk about a trip. I want to quote from Rachel Ricketts for a second from this book. We must acclimate our body to withstand our own discomfort and shower ourselves in compassion so we have a shot at bestowing that same compassion on others, on the others who are most marginalized. We can't run away. We can't just feel at peace every second. But what we can do, I think, is we can take a step back without running away. And we can bring a wise being to be with us. We can bring our higher self. We can bring a guide. We can bring words of wisdom. So we don't have to be in the darkness without the stars. That's what this shirt is supposed to represent. There's a Threshold choir song that says, we walk not into the night, we walk but toward the stars. We can bring compassion and comfort and calmness and love. And of course, we really need those the most when we're in grief or rage or pain or sadness. But we don't have to push away the other in order to bring the love in. You do have to practice, at least I do. So can you do it? Can you bring the easy and the hard together? Can you bring yourself and our community and our big, wider community of humans and our big, big, wider community of all the things that exist on this planet, the rocks and the trees and the waters and the destruction? Can you bring it all in? Can you have the ability to sit with all of us, all of that? Some of you know the poem from Uriah Mountain Dreamer called The Invitation. Part of that says, I want to know if you have touched the center of your own sorrow. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it is not pretty every day. And if you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. The other book I brought, which I am have the privilege of being part of a 3 times a week meditation group also with Holly Makema, this book is called The Way of Grace by Miranda Mcpherson, and we are going through that a few paragraphs at a time. So Miranda Mcpherson says, it is possible to be joyful even when tremendous suffering is to be borne. The ticket price of feeling the full spectrum of your experience, the beauty and the horrors, is giving it all welcome in your heart. So I'd like to do a little exercise with you. I may have done this once before, but never too many times. So what I'd like, if you're willing, you can do it in your mind, however you would like, or you don't have to do it. Hold out your 2 hands. And in one hand, whichever one you choose, place the things that are hard. They can be personal things, difficulties in your life. They can be community issues. Probably COVID would go there. They can be issues of the world. They can be the climate, whatever, all the things. Think about and just let yourself, you don't have to get close to them, but if you feel something, that's okay. But just watch it. Just look at it with interest, curiosity, and whatever other emotions. You can put those in this hand too. And then in the other hand, put love, put peace, joy, comfort, blessings, the gifts that you are receiving from this life and from the world of spirit. And just now look kind of back and forth between your hands. And it seems like these are separated, right? This hand, this hand. But guess what? Our hands are connected, aren't they? Our hands aren't separate. And let's really bring them together. Let's bring our hands together and just put everything, all that is holy. And that's the way we can live. So I'd like to do a just short guided meditation for about 2 minutes here. So just take a moment right now to just look around, wherever you are. Some of you are here, some of you are on home and Zoom, and just look at the walls and the ceiling and the fan, the floor. See where the windows are. See the doorways. And then look at your body. Look at the outside. You can imagine the insides, all those organs and muscles and blood and bone and all of that. And just be aware what your body's resting on and how it's feeling in this moment. And now, if you would like, you can close your eyes. And imagine you're taking a step back. I'll do it, but then I'll come back to the mic. Step back from this human incarnation. So Pretend, actually, I like this one. Pretend your camera's out here and you're taking a selfie, right? So you see your Earth suit on the camera there, on the phone. So, but you're here. The Earth suit's there. So step back, leave the Earth suit in that picture. And now look at that body of yours from a step back. Look at what it looks like. You can look at the outside. You can look at the thoughts. Check out your personality. What's that like? Check out all the feelings that came with that Earth suit. Some calm places, some not so much calm places. And look at the things you love about yourself. And look at the things that maybe you don't love so much. And now let that all go. And here you are. Here you are. You can magically take any form you would like. Maybe you're going to be a star, or a drop of water, or a seed, or a breath. This is your divine self, your higher self. Nothing is in the way. You are in touch with all that is. No barriers. And just experience that for a moment. No barriers. You are all that is. Take a breath. Bring yourself back. Got to put that Earth suit back on. It's actually a gift. Put it back on as a gift. It's your solstice present. Winter solstice is a time to let all the barriers dissolve and to dance in your own darkness and your own light. Be still. Listen. Put a pen in your hand or put your fingers on a keyboard and see what comes out. See what you write. Can you hear your divine guidance? It can come from anywhere, from the trees or the stars or your little finger. You know it's divine by whether or not it's leading you towards love and healing. The divine always leads us towards love and healing. If you're going in another direction, you can notice it and bless it and ask for its lesson. Show up with everything you have. Have compassion for every single bit of it. Sit with your painful parts and ask them to talk to you and share their wisdom. Breathe into it with all your love and all your guides and all your light. And get help when you need it. We all need help sometimes. Be a community be aware that we are a community like the trees who nurture each other and help each other when they need it. We're going to end our ceremony today with a song. And we want to thank and release the spirits who came with us on this journey and give thanks for all we've been given as we celebrate the longest night and the returning sun and our own divinity.